folks, so I thought and decided that I needed to get back to a little bit of your regular programming on this channel, since I've been flooding it with the JDAH thing. So we are going back to the actually autistic hashtag tonight. And I wanted to kind of update you and go over a little bit of what's going on and a little bit of a rant. So, what we are getting into now, first of all, the invasion in our hashtag of people who are not actually autistic, they are parents, siblings, what have you, that has still been going on. And what we've been hearing is this absurd idea that we are trying to quiet the voices of the parents of the autistics who are nonverbal. No. Why is it always all or nothing with you folks? That is not what we are doing at all. If you have a nonverbal child who engages in social media, they are more than welcome to join our hashtag. But again, it is a hashtag that we created for ourselves. Number 2, there are tons and tons and tons of hashtags for parents, siblings, caretakers, doctors, social workers, what have you, to discuss your experiences and what's going on in your lives. We're not trying to outshout you. For the longest time, it was the parent groups that had complete control of the narrative when it came to autism. Talking years and years and years. It wasn't till the early 2000s that as self-advocates started finding our voices and really getting ourselves out there. And we've had backlash on that from day one. Remember, I told you that some of us had received death threats. That was actually prominent in the beginning. It's just the idea of nothing about us without us. I'm not sure what is so threatening about that narrative. But anyways, that's part of it. They think we're trying to outshout and quiet the parents of nonverbal autistics. That is not the case. We're not trying to silence you. We're trying to get you to not be in a hashtag created by autistic people for autistic people. We created another hashtag for those who want to talk about us, talk with us, talk about us, have their say, under another hashtag that is called Asking Autistics. Okay, so that's been going on, and we've still been fighting that battle. And quite frankly, folks, I don't understand what the problem is here. But these same folks who've been saying this same sort of thing have made many of us feel like we had to justify our diagnosis and justify our rights to support. This is ridiculous. This is ableism at its worst. It really is. In order to be able to speak on my rights, I shouldn't have to carry my diagnostic papers, my diagnosis in my backpack pocket to pull out in order to justify myself. I really shouldn't. I shouldn't have to explain the difficulties that I have had where I have needed supports in order to be heard. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And with the few of us that are able to prove and do have our diagnostic paperwork able to post online, then they go on with this narrative about how the diagnostics for autism need to be tightened. Do you folks have any idea how hard we have to fight just to get any supports at all? Any supports at all? I can tell you, I would not be where I am right now in my life if I did not have the support in my very late teens and in my 20s. I simply wouldn't be. And I had to not only fight to get them, but fight to keep them. To justify myself every single year. Every year. You are essentially saying all of us who had to fight so hard for those very desperately needed supports should be completely taken off the diagnosis. And that's disgusting. It really, really is. You want to remove from us all the supports that are the very things that made us successful, made us be able to live more independent lives, made us able to go out and find our voices. And why? Why? There is this weird myth that by me, quote unquote, higher functioning person, getting the supports I needed back in the day, that others need in order to live their most independent lives, that how is somehow taking from their child, that we are somehow stealing from their child when we receive these supports that they have deemed us not needing. These folks do not live with us in our day-to-day lives. They have no concept or clue the barriers we've had to overcome in order to get where we are. And if they succeed, then we're looking at a generation of autistic people that could possibly lose out on life-saving supports. Now, I'm going to share something with you that's extremely personal. When I was working with the state as the advocacy specialist, one of the folks there, their parents came in and they were just desperate for help. And so was their child. Their child was getting ready to enter into young adulthood, desperate for supports. This individual was declared too high functioning for services. I found out later that individual lost all hope. And they committed suicide. So parents who think that the diagnostics need to be tightened, I want you to think about that. Think about that young man's mother. Think about what could have been if that young man could have got the support he needed when he needed it. This is serious, folks. It is already almost impossible for some of us to be able to get into actual services and supports. And the fact that you want to take that away because you feel we're not autistic enough, and the real world out there doesn't feel like we're normal enough. You see what I'm saying? You can't do that. You can't do that. We are not stealing from your children when we get supports. Get that craziness out of your head. Out of your head. I had to get that out there. One, I do not have to justify to you the fact that I'm autistic every time I speak by pulling out my diagnosis paperwork out of my back pocket. Number two, I do not have to justify to you my need for supports. And number three, by tightening up the diagnostics, all you're doing is causing pain and desperation in a group of other parents that are also fighting as hard as they can to get the help that their child needs. There shouldn't ever be a situation like that young man. Ever. Find out and learn what this sort of thing can do. Have the empathy that you continuously tell us we don't have. Alright, folks. Again, as always, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the likes. I do appreciate your time this evening, and I hope you have a good one. Thank you.